Yeah, we will be beginning in like 2 or 3 minutes. Just make sure to call all of your friends and put a reminder in your department branch so that everyone joins. The recording will be there later on, but again, you won't get the live doubt solving or that. So it will be.
You're not audible.
Yeah, we were talking on call. I was having some problem with Kincha. That is it.
Okay.
Hello.
Hum. Hello.
Actually, I was having I was having some problem installing code blocks. So can I use online compiler for the
Yeah.
time being?
For today's class, I will be using online compiler today. At the end of the session, I will show you how to set up VS Code and also provide links for that, so you can do it later on. But for
Also, like,
today's session, yeah.
for now, don't worry about the editor. It'll be explained at the end of the session, all right? And we
Are we
recommend
going
you
to
guys.
use code blocks or VS Code?
Right now, we are working on the browser using IDE 1. We recommend you people ask doubts through chats because it can break the flow of the speaker, right?
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we access the chat.
Is there anyone who can't access the chat? Can you raise your hand?
I think to access the chat, you will have to join this team group. So if you have joined directly from the meeting link, you will not have the access to chat, most probably. That is the reason. So you might have gotten a mail to join this team. So join this team first and then come into the meeting. So you will be able to access the chat.
We're sorry about the delay, but given that some people cannot access the chat, we give them at least 3-4 minutes more so that they're able to fix their problem. And then we can begin.
Yeah, and those of you have laptops, so you can what you can do is when we are writing code, you can open up a tab simultaneously in ID1. We will show you how it's done. So open up a tab and try to write the same code or just like mimic what I'm doing. Maybe there will be a recording for you, but you can try. So if you get any live errors or live doubts, you can put it in the chat. Then someone will reply to you for that.
Today's lecture will be around 1.5 hours. Not totally sure, but it should be approximately that much time. Also, today we're going to just cover a few basic topics because this course is to help everyone who's just beginning with competitive programming, right? So if anyone doesn't even know a programming language, don't worry. We'll be starting right from the very basics.
Hello.
Yes.
Uh, I have one doubt. Will we join the future classes with the same link or?
Yeah, we will mail you a different link for each lecture, and that will be done 1 or 2 days prior to the next class.
Okay.
Hello.
The
Yeah.
people whose
Yeah.
hands are still raised, can you still not access the chat? If you can, please lower your hand.
Yeah. I have a doubt. I have
Yeah, I have downloaded the code block, but when I open it, it is written come a message that compiler is not executable.
Okay, we take a look at software related doubts towards the end. I'm so sorry about that.
Is it possible if we have any Teams group?
We do have a Teams group, right? This meeting is scheduled on a Teams group.
But I get the mail only.
In the mail, there will be a link to join the group as well. There will be a click here type of link. So click on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I guess we can start. Also, if anybody is stuck in the lobby, Siddharth, you can see that. If anybody, because I get a message where some people are in the lobby, but I have opened the lobby for everyone. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't think anyone. I can't see a lobby here, so I think you should be fine.
Okay. Okay then. Okay, so welcome to everyone to CP101. So this is a introductory course to competitive programming, and we will be primarily working with the language C++. We will be going on why. So first of all, what is competitive programming and why are we taking this course? Like, why are you motivating you to do it? So competitive programming is basically solving a set of problems with code. So you will be given a problem statement and there will be some conditions and you will have to write a code that solve that problem. So maybe you will be given that there are three numbers, give me the average. This is a very basic problem. Give me the average. So you will write a code that will always print the average whenever you input three numbers into that code. So this is competitive programming basically. The difficulty of the problem changes, the type of problem changes, but this is what it is. You take input and you give a certain output which the problem demands. And there are various contests which are held from time to time on different platforms. And we will be discussing about contests and platforms at towards the end. So you don't need to worry about that for now. Do not worry on the rating on the platform or anything. Just try to take it as a fun activity because CP is important. CP is helpful more probably on placements and interns. But since most of the audience is freshers, so I would say ki abhi you don't need to consider that aspect of it. You can just treat it like a game, give a few contests, weekly contests are there, give a contest, see the problems, and just level up whatever you can. Don't take it very seriously. If you're enjoying it, it's really great. And also
yeah, I'm sorry. Adding to what Gunjan said, why you need to do a CP is one, it helps you first. A lot of you have not started coding as of now, right? So competitive programming is one of the best ways to begin coding and start understanding how things work. Also, you probably have a course next semester called CS101. So if you start competitive programming from now as well, you will find that course to be very easy, or any probably algorithms related CS course will become much easier to understand and you can breeze through that course.
Yeah. And also there is a short video by William Lin. So William Lin is now a sophomore at MIT and he is one of the best competitive programmers around in the world. So not to intimidate you, but you can look at what is CP. He has explained about different contests and everything. So if you're interested, you can look into this video.
Also, if anybody is worried, we will provide the slides, so you don't have to worry that much about all that, right?
Also, you can see that there is a third point. The code writer needs to be efficient. So what is efficient? So there are many ways to solve a problem. Sometimes what you will do is you will simply run through the problem and just simulate it. That is called brute forcing. So that is not very efficient. We don't want to do like that every time because we always want our code to be as efficient as possible. So in different problems, there will be different constraints and you will have to follow that in order to make your code efficient. That is the essence of CP because anybody can write a brute force algorithm, like a brute force code, and it will pass. But you need it to be efficient so that it passes within that time limit. So we will go on that in this course only itself in a later part. Now the requirements for competitive programming. These are requirements for competitive programming and not for this course. Okay, so we will be starting with the very basics of C++. Now, why are we picking C++ is because first of all, C++ is an excellent language with a very great library, standard template library, which will make your job very easy when it comes to sorting data structures and using different type of data structures like vector, map, stacks. So these come inbuilt in C++. Also, C++ is fast, very fast as compared to Python. And there's another very good reason to use C++ because nearly everyone at IITG and in general, the competitive programming community uses C++. So whenever you look at solutions or you look at editorials, it is guaranteed that there will be a C++ solution, but we are not so sure about Java and Python. So that is why we encourage everyone to use C++. And yeah, there are a few who use Java, but switching is not that tough, to be honest. You can just, in a day, you will get comfortable with the syntax of C++ and you will start working with that.
Like if anyone is worried that they have learned Java in school or stuff like that, don't worry too much about that. It is very easy to shift to C++. I myself had learned Java in school and I shifted to C++ in college. So that's not something you should be worried about. It's very similar.
And also the second requirement is now you know a language, you need a place where you can write it or use it. So for that, we use an IDE. IDE is basically, IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, but doesn't matter. It basically is a place where you can write code and run it. So the common ones which are common in our usages, first of all, many people use IDE 1, which is an online IDE. So online IDEs are good when you're starting out because you don't need to set up anything on your device and you don't need to get into that hassle. But after some time, you will find that it is very annoying to run the code, to stand in long waiting times because it takes a lot of time as compared to your local machine. And also it is not very easy to change, and also you will essentially need to switch to a local machine editor later on, like CodeBlocks. CodeBlocks is a legacy editor. It was used very early, and now also when you will be taking courses in institute, you will be using CodeBlocks. But VS Code and Sublime are some of the more modern options which have more extensions and things that can help you out. So anything works. Again, there is no certain key. You will have to use CodeBlocks or you will have to use VS Code. You can use any of them as long as it can run C++. It is fine. And we will be showing you how to do that later on. So don't worry about that. But for this first lecture, we will be using this website, id1.com. All our code will be written on this website. Okay. So now moving to the actual coding part. So whenever we write a C++ program, there are certain nuances to be followed. For example, there's this snippet you can see here, this area. So this is something which is the structure of C++. Since C++ uses classes, functions, and everything, you cannot just go and write print and it will print directly. It will need to be in a function, importing the required libraries, and then it will print something. So don't get too afraid looking at these statements if you've never seen them before. This first line, this include bits standard C++. It basically means that there is a certain library of C++ structures which will help you in your coding practice. So if you want to use map or something like that, we will see later on. So you can directly import those things from this library. So this is basically your include statement. It includes the entire standard library, so you don't need to include libraries for input, output, and maths and all separately. Then this using namespace standard, it is basically that all the functions are stored with certain names. Wherever there is a C library, wahan pe all the functions have certain names. So whenever you want to use them, you will have to call ki I am trying to use a function in this category. So since almost all of the functions that we use belong to standard category, so what we will do is we will use std by default. So this says ki whatever code I'm writing here, take std as the default group. Okay, you can consider namespace like a group for now. Then don't get into this too much because this is not really important for our coding purposes. You will have to write a code here in this area. This is constant and you will have to write it across all of your C++ programs. So nothing to worry about in this. And we will see what is main and what is return. These are sort of important. So we will see about them. So int main. int main is basically, as the name suggests, a main function. So whenever you execute a C++ program, the main function gets run. So suppose you have written 2-3 functions. Functions are basically small blocks of code that do certain work. So suppose you want to add 2 numbers. So you have written a sum function that it will take 2 numbers and it will give out one sum. So that is a function. Now main does what? Main is the main function. So whenever you run a C++ program, the main function gets called, and whatever statements are there in the main function, they are executed. So for your code to be executed, you will have to write all your code inside the main function. And then even if you're writing external functions or something, we will see how that's done in a further lecture. Then you will have to call it inside your main so that it is executed. So the main is the main function essentially.
तुमने पैसा
For
दे
C++.
दिया, मम्मी को भेज दिया।
Yeah.
कल हमने बात करी थी घर पे।
Please mute him.
पैसा भेजने की।
सिद्धार्थ देखो।
तो पापा कहे कि ठीक है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है यहाँ पे, ऐसा तुम अपने रखे रहो, लेकिन फर्जी खर्चा मत करो।
Okay, I think it's gone now. Yeah, you can go on. Please try not to unmute yourselves because it disturbs the flow of the speaker, all right?
Yeah. Okay, so then in this function, you might have seen there's a return 0 here. So this return 0 is not necessary. People don't write it. It is by default. But return 0 basically means कि जो main function है, it will return a 0. So returning 0 means that your function executed without any problem. इसके अंदर जितना भी whatever code was there in this area, it was executed very properly. There was no error, and your function reached the end. Okay. And sometimes, as part of good practices, what we do is we use return 1, return -1 when there is an error. But again, for CP purposes, not at all required. In CP, you can entirely skip this line. You can just write your code here, and return 0 will be by default. Because if there are any errors, you will see in your output that there were errors. So that is not a problem. So this was about the code template. Again, if you have any doubts, you can put it in the chat box. We are looking at that. And
it's a very basic template, and every program you probably will write will have these lines in it, all right? So we were just trying to explain why these lines are there. You don't have to worry too much about these lines.
Yeah, you can go and just copy and paste. There's nothing to learn in these lines, so don't worry about that. And like once we have a basic idea of these data types and all, I will code some examples live and show you how we execute or write programs. So just some summary of these data types, and then we will move to actual writing part. Okay. So yeah, coming to primitive data types. So primitive means basically the data types which are inbuilt in C++. So you don't have to define it by yourself. So C++ offers you some things that are by default present in it, like int, bool. So even if you have the slightest programming experience, you can easily recognize as these are common across all programming languages. And if you have never coded before, not a problem, because see, the meaning of the data type is written over here. So int is basically an integer. So whenever you want to store an integer, like someone's age or someone's marks, so you can just declare a int a. Now this a is the name of the variable. So variable क्या होता है? Variable is a certain, you can think like a box. So in a variable, you can put a value and you can use that value later on. Because you suppose somebody's marks are 70, okay, and now you want to calculate his average or something like his total marks. So you won't do 70 plus 50 plus 30 every time, because that can change. Somebody else can have a different mark. So what you will do is you will use variables which will take the input from the user and store it within them. And then you can call that variable wherever you want. Just like in algebra, we had x. So here we have different types of variables. We store different types of things. So if there is an int is storing an integer. Bool is very simple. Bool just stores true or false. So many times we have conditions. In C++ or in any language, we have conditions like is 5 greater than 3? So that is a true, because 5 is greater than 3. And we have conditions like is 0 greater than 1? So that is false. We have many more complex conditions as well. Just a second. Okay. So we have more complex conditions as well. But these are the basic ones just to get an idea what is true and false. So true and false, as in English we have It will just give you a true if the condition is correct. If the condition is not correct, it will give you false. So we can even store those conditions. So suppose we want to store that has someone passed in an exam. So we can say bool passed is equals to true. And if we say that he has not passed, then we can say pass is equals to false. So in that way, we can use data types. Now double. So we saw that int can store only integers. But what if you want to store someone's height or some distance? You might need decimal places, right? So for decimal places, we have these two data types, float and double. Double is more precise. Double has more capacity to store, so it is more precise than float. Float is smaller in size. In general, in CP, we don't worry about the size of the variables, so we use double. We use double to declare any floating points that we have. So very easy, very intuitive. Double G is equals to 4.90. So you can just input your decimal over here. So float is similar to double, except that it is smaller and less precise. Now for char. So char is a single character. Okay, char can take a single character. If you know about ASCII. So yeah. So this is the ASCII table. Now what is ASCII is, there are different characters from A to Z, from small a to small z, and brackets and all. So there is a standard notation for each character. There is a certain number. You can see that there is a number 79, 80 given to each character. So you can store these characters in a char variable, in a char data type. So it can store only one single character, and if you need to use more than one characters, then we have a different data type for that. That is called string. So we will talk about string as well, because that is often more used than char, because char has a limitation that it can be used with only one single literal. Yeah. So I've talked that double is already more precise than float because it has a greater capacity. There are some modifiers called signed, unsigned, long and short. So not really important right now. I'm just giving an idea of what they do. So signed is basically you will have a sign. So this is by default there is a negative sign or a positive sign. Unsigned means that all the numbers will be positive. So suppose you have a length. Length cannot be negative. So length will be positive. So you're constraining that basically. If you declare a variable as unsigned, then it can never take negative values. Then long is basically increasing the size of that data. So if you have an int, and you want to use a variable which is larger than int, because int has a certain range. So agar your data is not falling in that range, suppose you want to store the number of galaxies in the world. So maybe your int is short of that. So you want to use a larger data type. So for that, we can use a long in front of the int. So it will give more space to that int variable. We will look at space now. What I was talking about. So in this table, you can see that int ka there is a certain range, minus 2 की power 31 to 2 की power 31 minus 1. Okay, you don't need to memorize these ranges at all. There is no need for that. Just in general, you can have a rough idea in which case you will use which variable. And for CP purposes, for competitive programming, we use only long. Generally, it is very safe to use long, and because no variables go beyond this level. In any CP program, you will not have data which is beyond this. So we use long. We don't need to worry about the space it takes. So we can use long for that purpose. And these are the sizes. So sizes are mentioned in bits. Sizes are mentioned in bytes, where 1 byte stands for 8 bits. So this is basic computing. But again, for CP, we don't need to worry about the sizes. We just need to know which data type to use in which condition. So that is here. Also, there is another data type called string. So string kya karta hai? String can store multiple characters. So suppose you want to store someone's name or someone's address or something which has more than one character. So you can use a string. Now, you might ask, where is a char useful then? So character can be used when you want to store a single letter. For example, someone's grades, A, B, C, or D. So it is very easy to operate on char. You can, since it is a single literal, so there are many things which strings take time, but char does very fast. So you can use char to store when you have a single literal. And string is Yeah, so string is just a collection of characters. So you can view a string like that. And also there's a thing called overflow. So what is overflow? Overflow में क्या होता है कि suppose this short, you can see the short variable here, short data type here. Short has a range of -2^15 to 2^15 minus 1. So you can wonder, what if I try to store a value which is greater than this? If I try to forcibly store a value which is greater than 2^15 minus 1, what will happen in that case? So we can try that. So just a second. Yeah, so here you can see so here this is again the very basic syntax of a C++ program, including I'll write a new code for this. Okay, and here you can use bits, the one which you saw earlier, bit standard C++.h. So it will include the entire library. Okay, and so loops are something we have not done yet, so I will exclude that for now. But you can see short I is equals to 32765. Okay, this is near the range of the short variable. Okay, so what I'll do is I will add, maybe I've added 3 to this. So now what I will do, I will try to print the value of I. So don't worry about cout and end line and all. We will cover this, taking input and giving output. Cout is basically output. You can see cout. So it will output I, and this end line stands for a new line. So after printing I, it will press an enter key, like you press an enter key. So it will come to the next line. So after printing I, the cursor will come to the next line. So let us run this and see if we have any problem. So something awkward happened here. You can see कि 32765 was a positive number, and I added 3 to it, and the output is minus 32768. So this is a case of overflow, because we tried to go beyond the range of short. What short did, what it came backward. So वो पीछे आ गया. After you have crossed the positive range, it will loop backward to its negative range, which is 2^15 minus 1 and minus 2^15 minus 1, and it will go there. So in that way, overflow works. So we will always try to avoid overflow, and the best way to avoid overflow is use long, because long has a very big range, and all the CP programs will be within that range for sure. And if you want to know more about the data types and their uses, you can refer to these links. We have put links everywhere in the PDF, so you can go and read on them later on. So now we have data types, right? Now we have to do something on those data types or those variables. So if you have 2 values, you may want to add them, multiply them, subtract them. So we have operators which do this, very similar to mathematics. You can see these are the common operators we see in maths as well. So yeah, so these are the common ones we see in maths as well: plus, minus, multiply, divide. And this is the modulo operator. So some of you might not be familiar with modulo, and we will be having a few exercises further on modulo. The rest of these are pretty common, and I think everybody has an idea of these. Now relational operators. Relational operators, what you do is they compare two things. So suppose you have something, and you want to compare them. So that is done by relational operators. So suppose the example I was talking about earlier, 5 greater than 3. So you can see that there is a greater than sign over here. Okay, so that is what relational operators do. They compare two things, and they will give an output in Boolean. Remember Boolean, we talked about Boolean here. Boolean gives a logical true or false. So if we compare two things, and if that statement is true, then it will give a true output. If that statement is false, then it will give a false output. So bools are used to store this type of comparisons. And so these are different types of relational operators: greater than, less than, greater than equal to, less than equal to. This double equal to is basically equals in maths that we use is 5 equal to 5. So in programming, we use double equal to because single equal to has a different meaning. We have seen earlier that when we were declaring variables, for example, over here, we use int a equals to 5. So in programming, what single equal to does is it takes this value on the right hand side and gives it to the left hand side. Sorry about that. So it takes the value on the right hand side and gives it to the left hand side. So that is why when we want to compare two, so we want the program to know basically that we don't want to assign values. Now we want to compare values. So for comparing, we use double equal. And this is not equal to. So if you want to check if two values are not equal, then you can use this. Logical operators are used to combine. So this is, you may be familiar with these, like true and true is true, but true and false is false. So and does what? Keep both the state, and takes two operands. So they go and over, and there are two conditions over here. If both are true, then and will return true. If any one of them is false, and will return a false. And similarly, this stands for or. So or means out of both of these conditions, if any one is true, then it will return a true. And this is not. So what it will do is it will take only a single condition. These take two conditions. They will see two conditions and then give output. Not takes only a single condition. And what it will do is reverse that. So if you give 3 greater than 5, okay, so 3 greater than 5 is not true, it is false. Okay, 3 greater than 5 is false. And then you put a not symbol in front of it, then it will become true. So not false is true and not true is false. So basically just reversing it. So not is used in that case. And these are the bitwise operators. So you will be learning more about them in your E101, and also they're not used in very basic programming, competitive programming, but yeah, the questions are common. So we will look at them later on, but and is basically take 2 bits and return the and of them, take 2 bits and return the or of them. This is XOR. This is bitwise shifts. These are bitwise shifts. So it will shift your bitwise number, the bits by one place, either to the left or to the right. So these are the bitwise operators. For now, we will be not looking at them because they are a bit advanced. So we will be looking at these three for now. Now there will be some questions for you to answer in the chat. So for example, now we will look at one operator which we were talking about, modulo operator. So modulo is very important in competitive programming because many times your answer is very large. For example, there is example written here, 1000 factorial. So you can just imagine how large 1000 factorial will be, 1 into 2 into 3 up till 1000. So that will be a very, very large number. So in that case, what we have to do is, oftentimes the question asks us to give the answer modulo some number. Now what is modulo? So modulo is कि suppose you have x mod m. X mod m का मतलब होगा कि if you divide x by m, then what is the remainder? Okay, if you divide x by m, then what is the remainder? So for example, 17 mod 5 means 2, because when you divide 17 by 5, you have 2 as a remainder. So this is basically modulo, just getting the remainder after dividing. And this is obvious that the value of the remainder will always be less than x, or always be less than this mod m. So the remainder x mod m is less than or equals to m minus 1 and always greater than or equals to 0. Okay, so maybe we have some examples on this. Okay, so for example, I have a variable 20 and I have another variable, suppose 3. Now if I want to see what is the modulo, so I can store the result in a different variable, a mod b. This is how we use the modulo operator, percentage sign. So this will give me the remainder when 20 is divided by 3. Okay, so now outputting that, again, don't worry about cout for now. Just consider that this is outputting something.
Oh, yeah. Before Gunjan runs the program, can some of you write in the chat what you think the answer should be? I mean, it's a very simple problem, but yeah. Yeah, I think we can run it now.
Okay. So
Right,
the
so
answer is 2 as expected. And if anybody still has a doubt in how Modulo works, we have more examples trying to put up. So now I have changed this to 5. I would like your answers again on this before I run it. Yeah. So the answer is 0 because 5 exactly divides 20. So there is no remainder left. So the answer is 0. Now another case. What happens if I take a mod of a larger number? So 20 mod 30. Siddharth, just prompt me once when I need to run the code. Okay?
yeah. There's a bunch of very different answers. So I think people are slightly confused.
Okay,
You can go on and run it.
So the answer is 20. Now, why is the answer 20? It's very easy. You can see 20 is nothing but 20 is equals to 0 into 30 plus 20. So the remainder is 20 here. The quotient is 0 and the remainder is 20. Okay. So modulo again does not matter number bada ho chota ho, doesn't matter about that. It just gives you the remainder when the number is divided by another number. Okay. So that is what it does. If you have any doubts, still you have a doubt, you can put in the chat box. I'll take it up.
What about negative numbers? Yeah, we will be coming to negative numbers as well.
Any guesses?
All right, so the question is now 20 mod minus 3. So the basic thing you guys need to realize is that the modulo of anything lies between 0 and the absolute of that number minus 1. Go on, run it.
This is cool. Okay, so get. Okay, so the answer is minus 2. So how do we justify minus 2 over here? Because you might say कि minus 3 से तो 20 will never be divided. So the answer should be basically something 20 itself, as we discussed earlier, because it is 0 into minus 3 plus 20. But it doesn't work that way exactly. So when you divide 20 by minus 3, 20 mod minus 3, so what it will do is it will take the negative multiplication, minus 6 into minus 3. Just a second. 20. Okay. So it will take, what mod does is takes the nearest largest number. So how do I get this? It takes the smallest quotient basically. So if you take minus 7, okay, so this will be minus 7 into minus 3. Okay, I'll take this up after after the next slide, because there is a certain rule we need to use here. That is in the next slide. So you can see over here, these are the properties of modulo. So right now what we did was we used a C program, we ran it, and we got the modulo. But many times you will not be able to get these values, right? You will calculate these values after running some code, and you will have only the variables. So in that case, what you need to do? So suppose you want to calculate a plus b mod m. Now you cannot calculate a plus b first and then take the mod, because that will go out to the range and that is not allowed. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to apply these properties. Now what are these properties? A plus B mod M is equals to A mod M plus B mod M whole ka mod M. So you can see that this entire thing will always be less than M. Okay, this entire expression will always be less than M. If you do A plus B first and then you take the mod, so A plus B में तो overflow हो गया. A plus B gives you overflow, so there is no purpose of taking a mod. You will get a wrong answer now. So because mod is always asked at those places where there is a possibility of a overflow. So whenever you are taking additions, you need to use this property. Now for subtractions. In subtractions also, this property holds in normal mathematics. But if you want to get positive answers, so you need to add plus m here as well. So A mod m minus B mod m, and then you will need to add a plus m so that your answer comes out to be positive, because as we said earlier, the result of this should always be between 0 and m. Okay. So since it should be between 0 and m, so that is why we need to add this plus m, so that whatever your remainder comes, it is a positive number, a non-negative number basically. And then for multiplication as well, you can do A mod m and then multiply B mod m and then take the mod of the entire thing. We will look at these examples. We have prepared these examples for you, so you can first of all try this on your notebook. You don't need a program for this. Try these 3 examples on a piece of paper and give us the outputs. What should be the answers for these using these above properties? And for those wondering, there is no property for division. There is inverse division and all those things, but not required right now. Someone is asking how in addition there is an overflow. So here you remember that example, right? We took just now for short. So I took short as 32765 and then I added a 3. Then there was an overflow and it went to the negative side. So that is the overflow in addition, because addition will always give a larger value. If both values are positive, addition will always give a larger value. So, and that might result in a possible overflow. So to prevent that overflow, what we will do is we will take the modulo of the first one, modulo of the second one, and add those two, and then take a common modulo for the entire sum. If you are still confused, again, we will look at this in proper code as well. Look at, so you can see why the outputs make sense.
Yes, even subtraction can cause overflow, because you might actually, yeah, it can basically cause overflow. If you cross the limits defined in the range of the variable, there will be an overflow.
So we have answers 421, 441. No one with a negative answer, that's good.
Yeah, I think the problem with the previous example was that you took the mod with a negative number, right? So that is a given. There's a thing in C++.
Okay, अरे हाँ.
I think you meant to do it the other way around.
Yeah, -20 mod 3 करना था.
Yeah.
हाँ.
All right. I think we can run code now to simulate these operations and tell us what the answer is.
Yeah. So the first one was 100 minus 84 mod 6. Okay, so int A is equals to 100, int B is equals to 84, int C is equals to 6. Right? So I'm just declaring variables so that you get a practice of using variables instead of these direct values. So 100 minus 84 mod 6. So int D is equals to A minus B C.
Gunjan, it'd be nice if you use the formula to show that the answers come out to be the same.
Okay, हाँ, ठीक है. A minus B mod M. So I'll use M as well here. And you can see that I have made a mistake over here because I've written A minus B mod C. So this is what we need to avoid. We need to take the mod of C first, okay, in a bracket. You use brackets in the same way used in maths to give priority to a certain part, B mod C. Then I'll close the bracket, then plus C, oh sorry, plus M होगा ना हर जगह. Keep it to be C then. So I'll take a minute to explain what I've written. A mod C, as you can see over here, A minus B mod M is equals to A mod M minus B mod M plus M mod M. Okay. So here my mod variable is 6, is C. So A mod C minus B mod C. Then I've added C to this entire difference. ये जो mods का difference है, I've added C to that, and then I've taken a mod outside as well, because this can give a negative answer if you don't do this plus C over here. Not in the first case, but in the second case, it will give a negative answer if you do that. So we will look at that, and the answer should be D. Clearing the output and running it. So the answer is 4 for the first one, okay? And then again, so now what we have, 84 minus 100 mod 6. So just swap the values. 84. This is why variables are good, because you don't need to now change A, B, and C everywhere. You just change at one place and it gets done at all places automatically. So now here, I'm just removing this part for now. This plus C, I'm removing this. So you see that the answer I get is -4, which is not exactly consistent with our definition of mod, because we wanted our remainder. We know that our remainder should always be between 0 and the divisor. So this is a mistake. That is why to fix this is a convention in C++. So to fix this, to get the answer, we add a plus C and then again take a mod outside. Okay. So now if you do that, the answer is 2 as we expected. So what it did, this part, ये जो part है, this evaluates to -4. Now -4 plus 6 is 2. Okay. So this part, ये part जो है, this is 2. And now 2 mod 6. Now we will evaluate the entire part. So 2 mod 6 कितना होगा? 2 mod 6 will be 2. Okay. So again, going over this, 84 mod C कितना था? 84 mod 6 will be 0. 84 mod 6 will be 0.
Yeah, it's 0.
Yeah, and then B mod C, which is 100 mod 6. So 100 mod 6 will be 4. So 0 minus 4. This part is -4. Then -4 plus 6 is +2. And then +2 mod 6 is 2. Okay. I hope that clears any doubt you have regarding why I have used a plus M over here, or why are the formula for addition and subtraction a bit different. And then there is this one. 76 into 91 mod 15. So this question was basically if anybody wants to multiply first and then take the mod. That will, you can see that will take a huge amount of computation. But if you do this directly, so for example, 76 and what's the other one? 91.
91, sorry.
91, 15. Write the formula again. Mod C into B mod C and whole mod C. Okay. So see, first we will calculate what should be the answer, and then we will check it. So 76 mod 15 is 1, because 15 5s are 75 and then plus 1. Then 91 mod 15 is also 1. So 1 into 1 kitna hoga? 1 into 1 will be 1. And 1 mod 15 will be 1. Okay. But instead, if you wanted to do this without a mod, then you would be in a trouble, because if you didn't use the formula, you would have multiplied 76 and 91 first. That would have given you some number, big number, and then you would have tried to divide it by 15 and get the remainder. And this is a possible place where again overflow can happen. We are using very small numbers, but if you use numbers of the order of 10 to the power 8 or 10 to the power 7, so this will cause an overflow. So to avoid that overflow, we use this modulo. Just running it, and the output is 1. Okay. And I also hope that you have understood how to use IDE1 because of this. Just click on new code, you will get a C++ code, and right, you will also get a template over here, so you don't need to write the template. Just put in the code and you can start working. So this was regarding Modulo. It is very important. If anybody has any doubts, you can still put up in the chat. I'll just see for 1 minute and then we will move ahead. See, for C++, the modulo cannot be negative. Like, मतलब कि C++ जो calculate करेगा, that can be a negative result. But for our purposes in programming, we generally expect the remainder to be positive. Because maths maybe we also studied this only, right? That the remainder is always between 0 and the divisor. So we don't want to change that convention. And the example that I took earlier was a mistake on my part. 20 mod minus 3 is not correct because we cannot take modulo of the negative divisor.
No, we can. It depends on what the convention in C++. I think Pranshu put a link here. If anyone's got a doubt on that, they can check the link out later, I think. So it all depends on convention, all right? It's just a set of rules they have when they define the operator. So it just follows that. Gunjan, someone's asking for an overflow. Try to multiply, I don't know, 10.
Okay. So, and also int also has a domain. ऐसा नहीं कि int का domain नहीं है. So int also has a domain of I think 2 की power 32.
Yeah.
Yeah. So int also has a domain. So short में जो overflow हुआ, same thing will happen in int if you use a 2 की power 31. So there's nothing different. Should I take?
Do that multiplication ka, just multiply two large numbers in short. Don't do 1e7. Just multiply two large numbers. What was it? I don't know. Multiply.
So I can put 10,000.
10,000 into 10,000 will also work. Yeah, that should also work. Wait, will it? Yeah, it should work. Yeah, and then output it using two different formulas. One is just directly multiply and output. And one is, yeah, mod with C.
Okay.
Yeah. Before we run the program, you guys, we need you to run 10,000 into 10,000 mod 15. Wait.
Good luck with that.
I'm waiting for answers in the chat. Okay. Some more answers and then we can run it. Yeah. All right. I think Gunjan, you can run it now.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Lucky here.
Yeah, we got lucky here, but
I'm not sure if this works every time.
Yeah, wait. So even after the overflow, the modulo just happened to be the same here. I think we can change the values and run it.
First of all, you can see what is the value of E. Why are we doing that? So you can see the value of E is something minus 7936, which is clearly not A into B. A into B should be 10 to the power 8.
And it just happened to have the same remainder in this case, which was totally by luck and fluke.
And we don't want to be using this type of risky code in competitive programming, obviously. So that is why these formulas are there to help you. Also, you can see how much efficient this is. So first here you are running 10,000 into 10,000, that is going to a certain range, and then you are taking the mod. Here you are already reducing the mod to a number which is less than 15, and again you are reducing this to a number which is less than 15, and then multiplying that. So obviously 14 into 14 is much easier than 9,000 into 9,000. So that is why this is efficient as well. So yeah, don't miss out on the formula. You will have to use these. Otherwise, someday or the other, you will run into an error. And mod errors are of that nature that you will not it will not be very easy to debug them, because you won't see where is the error in your code. Your logic will be correct, but the incorrect usage of mod can result to a wrong answer. I think we can move ahead. We are given a lot of time on mod. So operators, as we discussed earlier. So very quickly, just give me the results of these operations. You know that these comparisons always return a true or false. So just say me true and false for the corresponding ones, 1, 2, 3, 4. So say which will give true, which will give false. If you still have doubts on Modulo, we have given the links, and also we again encourage you to go to this editor, online editor, and try out your different versions and come out with explanations and see how the formula work. Like you saw, there was an overflow over here. So we really encourage you to do that.
Okay, I think it seems like everyone knows the answers.
Great. So I hope everybody was correct on this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move on.
And so yeah, these are logical operators. Now what do logical operators do? So relational operators return a true or false. Logical operators work on those true and falses. So it will work on a true and true, true and false, false and false, and so on. So suppose we have this particular code over here. Suppose your age is 19. Okay, my age is 19, and eligible is for election. Okay, eligible for election. Yeah, if I'm over 18, I am eligible. So this holds a true or false. So is my age greater than or equals to 18? Yes, my age is greater than or equals to 18 from here. So I am eligible to vote. Okay. Now there is a second variable, has card. So do I have an election card? Which is true in this case. I have an election card. Okay. So can vote is the result. Can vote is the result if I'm eligible and I have a card. Okay. Now suppose I was eligible. Okay, I was eligible and I didn't have a card. I didn't have my card issued. So this has card will be false. So can vote kya ho jayega? Can vote will be eligible, which is true, and has card, which is false. So true and false will give me a false. Okay. So I cannot vote in that case. And similarly, the other way around. If somehow magically I am not eligible and I still have a card, so in that case also, I should not vote. So this is how operators are used. This is for AND. There is an example for OR as well. Okay, very simple. AND is basically कि दोनों values, the two values should be true. Okay, both of them should be true, then the output is true. OR is if any one of them is true, then the output is true. Okay, so go up true, go down false. Okay, so this is maybe a lift or something. So it can go up and it cannot go down. But is active is it should go either up or down. अगर ऐसा है कि it cannot go up also, it cannot go down also, then is active will return false. But for now it can go up, so is active will be true. Okay, so I hope you get relational and logical operators. They are comparatively easy to the mod operator that we saw right now, and make sense a lot. So this is just plain English. Okay, go up or go down. So you can view it like that. Then there was this third operator, not. Okay, so int marks is equals to 55. Okay, somebody has scored 55 marks, and now bool passed. So pass stores that the student has passed or not, and suppose the passing criteria is 33 marks. So if the marks of the students are not, see, marks less than 33 and there is a not outside, so you can read this in English, not marks less than 33. So the marks of the student should not be less than 33, right? And this is basically equivalent to this part, because the marks should not be less than 33 means marks should be greater than or equals to 33, which is true in this case. So passed will return a true value. So these are very simple operators. You can fiddle around with them and check what values they give. So has license, is drunk, false, and can drive. So what I want you to write a statement for can drive. From has license and is drunk, write a condition for can drive, like we wrote over here. for election, or for this using and or operator. So use these two variables, has license and is drunk, and give me the expression for can't drive in the chat using logical operators.
We'd like it if you wrote it in terms of like program, like how you would write it in the program.
Yeah, there can be multiple ways to write this, so don't worry. And you can just first of all think of it in plain English and then convert it into code if for now that may be more intuitive. Okay, so we have some answers. See, one of the answers I saw was has license or is drunk, but in this case it is coming out to be true, but that does not make sense, right? Because if the driver has a license or is drunk, so if he does not have a license and is drunk, then he should drive. He should not drive, right? So we have to model our expressions based on the variables or based on the context of the program. तो जैसे यहाँ पे can drive, so can drive should be the driver should have a license and should not be drunk. Okay, so like many of you pointed out, it should be has license and not is drunk. Okay, so can drive is basically he has a license and is not drunk. So you talk of it in English and then write it in code, has license and not drunk. Okay, so logical operators are basically English statements. Here is the answer. So
I think we can move on.
And you might have been seeing that I was using cout and all those for output. Now, like in this program that we saw here, I was repeatedly changing the values of A, B, and C. This is not very user friendly. We do not want to do that. And in code, what will happen is you will submit your code. The computer will give the judge. There is a certain judge who judges your program. It is a software basically. So it will give inputs to your program and see the outputs. So you cannot expect it to go into a code and change those values. What it will do is it will give you a certain format of input. You will take that input, handle it, and then give the output. So for example, scene is the path that we use generally in C++ for inputs. So the standard streams are, so the standard streams for reading input and writing output are cout and scene and cout. Okay, because scanf and printf are there if you are familiar, but they are usually more complex to write, and so generally we use scene and cout, most of us. And the input of the program, when you will do competitive programming, so you will have inputs like this: input the number of test cases, input the number of elements, and then number of and then the elements. Like this type of inputs you will get. So you will need to take input as int. You will need strings. You will need characters. You can take even booleans. So that can happen. So so what we do is this scene can handle all of them together. So you don't have to write different statements for each of them. So let me take an example over here. Moving to the next slide, there we'll see an example. So here, int ab string x. So first I have to declare these variables. See, I've not given them any value. So now they don't have a value, they have a default value. But I have not explicitly assigned them some value because I know that I will be taking an input and that input will be stored in here. Okay, so int ab and string x, scene a, b, and x. This is just a separator that we use. So this is not bit shift. Don't worry, this is not bit shift here. That is a different operator. Okay, in scene we use this just to separate out the variables. So what I mean by this here is first take input a. The first thing that you see is a. The second thing that you see is b, and the third thing that you see is sx. Okay, so and these three elements, जो ये three tokens है basically, the three inputs, they can be separated either by spaces, they can be separated by a new line or a mixture. So scene takes care of that very properly. So that is why scene is very easy and very friendly to use. So it is what we use generally. So let me take an example. If I delete all of this.
Gunjan, we can convert that modulo question into one where it's interactive to take user input, right?
Yeah, okay, we'll do that then. A, B, and M. So I have three inputs, okay, A, B, and M. Now what I'm doing, C in A, B, M. So my program will expect three inputs. One is A, other is B, and C and M. It will take those inputs and store them in this variables. Okay. Now my answer, for example, is I want to calculate A plus B mod M. So A plus B mod M is, we know, A mod M plus B mod M and whole commod M. Okay. And then we want to print it. Cout is used for printing. So just a second, I'll run that code. We first let's see cout as well. So cin is the one which we use for input, and cout is the stream which we use for output, as the name suggests. So cout, for cout we use this symbol. In cin, if you remember, it was like this. In this, it is less than symbols. Okay, two less than symbols, just to separate the different outputs. So cout A means it will print out A. Then this is a space. Okay. So it will give a space, then end line. ENDL is a special word in C++. It means that insert a end line, so line break. So if you press a enter over there, so the cursor will come to the next line, and then it will start printing B, then a space. And so cout is a very versatile printing stream, because you can input integers, you can input spaces directly, you can input strings. So you can print anything you want just within one statement. So it becomes very easy, and you don't even have to mention the format again and again. So yeah, it is very easy in that way. So now let's look at an example. So for example, you have seen here, let me make it a little more interactive, writing the result. So just putting a string here. Okay. So cout result, answer end line. Now, since it is an online ID, I will have to give the inputs from before. So taking the inputs that we saw earlier, 100, 84, and 6. So 100 I'm giving for A, 84 I'm giving for B, and 6 I'm giving for M. Okay, let's run it. So these were the previous runs. Yeah, so the result is 4. So you can see now your program has become much more interactive and user-friendly, because the user can give his inputs from the terminal or from the console, and you can give the outputs over there. So this is the general way we do it in C in programming as well. We don't want users to be messing with our code. We want them to give another interface to put in their inputs. Okay, so this is how cin and cout work. Let us take an example with a string as well. So I'll let it be here, and string s, and suppose I want to enter my name as well. Okay, so I will write result for s. So what we'll do is we'll print result for s, which is my name. Then we'll print is, and then answer. Okay, so you can see I have put in a string directly over here. Then I put a string variable over here. I put another string. I put a int over here, and then an end line. So this is why cout is very easy to use. So now let's run it. Oh, okay, where did I give an input? Yeah, I didn't give an input for the string, right? So we'll run that again. So there are 4 inputs. So running it. So result for Gunjan is 4. Okay. So you can handle strings, ints, decimals, anything you want with cin and cout. Okay. Now, to those of you familiar with scanf and printf, or even if you're not familiar, there are 2 types of streams. So there is the scanf and printf, which is used in C. Okay, and they are available in C++ as well. In the first year of your programming, you will be taught these things, scanf and printf. These are fast, but they are usually difficult to work with. So what we do is we use these two lines when we use cin and cout. So at the beginning of the program, we use these two lines to speed up the cin and cout executions. You don't have to worry at all about what these lines do and why they are used. Just like whenever you run into slow outputs, so it is generally a convention to use this, to not take a risk and use these lines at the very beginning of your code in your main function, so that all the inputs and all the outputs become a tad faster. Now, you might be wondering that cin works on the basis, it does not discriminate between a space and a new line. So if I want to, what if I want to enter many words at once? If I want to enter, this is a sentence. So how will I read that? So for that, there is a function called getLine. So getLine does what? It will take the entire line and store it in this string from this input. So let me show you the difference over here. What is the difference between taking getLine and direct cin A? Okay. So remove this for now. String s, declare the string, and then cin s, then cout s. So I'm just basically printing it, taking input and printing it, nothing more. So the input changes now. So C++ is good. Okay. So now if I want to enter this, running it, so you can see the result is only C++. It didn't take the entire string, because what cin knows is after a space, I will ignore, I will move to the next one. And here we have not given any other variable, so it said ki that is the end for the input for me. But there may be cases where we want to take the entire line as input. So in that case, what we'll do is we'll use getLine. So getLine cin s, I will use two variables over here, s1 and s2. So getLine's input I will store in s1, and cin I will take. Okay, so there are two variables. I'll leave it out for now. First, let's do only getLine. So getLine will take the entire line and store it in the string s1. Okay, so same input, compiling it. So you can see that the entire string has been stored in s1 and it is being printed. So whenever you want to take a string with multiple words, you can use getLine in that case. Not very often in competitive programming, because in competitive programming, generally we get non-spaced sentences. But yeah, this might be useful sometimes. Again, you can always go to these further reading parts and know more about these functions and these programs if you wish. So then there are conditional statements. So somewhere or the other, you might have understood that we need to have some logic in the program, right? We just cannot always go on printing. We need to evaluate some conditions. So for example, let us write a very simple program using if-else. Okay, we'll demonstrate if-else there only. So suppose the program is for passing only. So I will declare a variable called marks. I will take input for marks. Okay, the input has been taken. Now, if marks are greater than 33, so the syntax is very if, you can read it in English, if, and there is a condition within that if parentheses. Okay, then we use a block. This curly braces, this indicate a block. So block क्या होता है कि suppose this if condition is true, then the execution will go inside this block and will run all the statements within this block. Okay, so what I will do here is cout. And then there is a else. So else is कि अगर if condition is not true, then what we have to do? Then you can use else. So अगर if condition is false, then the execution will come to else, and else will have, sorry, you failed. Okay. And now we have to change our input to align with this. So let us try to input some marks. Let us say 75, and then run it. So that says pass because my marks were greater than 33. Let's try something else which is not less than 33, maybe 25, and then run it. So it says, sorry, you failed. So you can see ki, if you want to have logic in our program, if is a very necessary thing, because without if you cannot put logic in a program. If you want to compare something, if you want to run certain statements based on certain condition. So in that case, we use if else, and you can continue this chain. Okay, so for example, like you want to give grades to students. Yeah. So if you want to give grades to students, so you say, write this out again. So you say if marks are greater than 90, you say ki see out standing. Then you put a else if. So what it will do is, ये statement false हुआ. If marks are not greater than 90, that will check for another condition. So if marks are greater than, maybe I'll choose 3 divisions for now. See out. Pass. Else. Okay, you can have a tree of if else if as much as you want. So even if you wanted to like include another else if
marks greater than 60 or something, yeah.
So you can see first it will check if condition, if marks are greater than 90. If that is true, that will put C out outstanding, and then it will come out. It will not go into these blocks. It will come out. So then again it will check if else if this condition is false, if marks are not greater than 90 and marks are greater than 60, that is marks are between 60 and 90, that will print good. Then it will print if marks are greater than 40, which means the marks are between 40 and 60. So it will print passed, and else it will print failed. Okay. So for example, if I input something like 65, here's the output, and it. So 65 will give a good because my marks are greater than 60, but my marks are not greater than 90. Okay. So you can have a very long chain of if else, as many as you want in a program according to your need. Okay. And it is very easy to use. This first if has a condition, it has a else. Now in that else you can put another if that has a condition else for that, and this last one should be a simple else, that if none of them are true, then this will be executed.
Gunjan, there's a interesting question in the chat. Someone's asked if instead of writing if else, if you write everything as if statements, then what the output will be in that case. So like, yeah, try to write it in that sense. Yeah, let the else stay, I think.
Remove this else entirely.
Yeah. Now you'll get a better understanding of what actually happens when you write an if statement.
So suppose I'm putting 95.
95. Wait, before you run it, can someone like people tell us what do you expect the output to be in the chat? All right, people seem to have a good idea. Go on, run it now. Yes.
Yeah, so as expected, whenever we have a else, what it does is, if the if condition is false, then only it moves to the else. If the if condition is true, it moves out of that entire block. But now what happened? First is check this statement. If marks are greater than 90, yes, then it printed outstanding. Then again, it came out of this if and it came to this if. So now it's like marks are greater than 60, good. Then that is also true, printed. So the benefit of using else is if you want to separate the conditions, ki if ye, nahi to ye, nahi to ye. But if you use if without any else, what will happen is it will check in each one of them.
But so, this can, if you still want to use this can easily be corrected by making sure the upper bound is also defined. So yeah. Wait, yeah.
This way. You can use yeah, this is an example for multiple conditions as well. So
Yeah.
this is where you can see relational operators being used. So relational logical operators. So I have a certain condition over here, and I have another condition over here, and I want the if to work on the and of both of these conditions. So agar both of these conditions are true, only then this if should execute. Yeah, so that.
Yeah. I think if everyone can write what they think the output should be right now, Gunjan will run it, and then we'll see if you guys got it right. The input is still 95. Yeah, I think Gunjan, you can run it now.
So we see that only this one was executed because the other conditions are false, because if the marks are greater than 9, if the marks are 95, this is false. So this entire thing is false. Again, this is also false. So you can do that, but again, this is less intuitive and less recommended. You should use else wherever required. Okay. We don't have to fight with the language essentially. We need to use the language. So if you have anything which the language provides you, try to use that.
Cool. I think we can move on. Yeah.
So something very similar to if is switch. Switch is certainly restricted because it can take only integers and characters. So this var here can be integers or characters, and this case will check only for equality. So it will not check for any complex conditions that you might have, like we had here, less than this and greater than this. So that will not happen, but it will do a good job at this purpose. So I'll just write it very quickly. Again, a similar case, but now you can see where switch case is definitely beneficial. Like
wait, I think Gunjan, if you write, I'll explain. So what a switch case is basically something that very similar to an if-else block, except it works only on equality. Yeah.
We'll explain the syntax in just a minute. I think these many cases are sufficient for now. And then there's a default case. Yeah.
Incorrect input or something.
ये भी चाहिए. Okay. So let us analyze what is this doing. So first of all, I'm taking a grade as input, which is a char. So char, again, I can take only a single letter or symbol, only a single thing. So I will take that as input. Then switch grade, what it will do is it will compare this cases. So these are different cases. So it will see if grade is equal to A. If grade is equal to A, and whenever we write characters, we use single quotes. You can see I've used single quotes over here. So whenever we write a character, we use single quotes. Whenever we write strings, we use double quotes, as you have seen here. Some languages like Python don't have this restriction, but C++ is very strong in this. So you will have to follow its syntax in this way. Okay. So whenever grade is equal to A, then it will go into this case and it will see out, it will run basically all the statements just like an if. So you can consider that this is if grade equals to A. Okay. See out outstanding. That will print outstanding, and this break is essentially keep once you are executed this one, you don't want to check other conditions and you don't want the other statements to get executed. So that is why we use a break. It is very essential in switch case. Otherwise there will be a thing called fall through. We will look at that. First of all, let's look at the normal case. So what I want to give as an input is A. So A is my input. Here the output. So let us see what do we get. outstanding, because my grade was A, I got an outstanding. If I then we have conditions for B and C in a similar way. Now let me put something out of these. Let me put E. If I put E over here, you can see what happens is incorrect input, because it didn't match A, it didn't match B, it didn't match C. So there is this default case. Default, as the name suggests, कि अगर none of the conditions match, none of the cases match, then this will get executed. Okay. So you can put this whenever you make menus. Sometimes you make menus, right? You select 1, 2, 3, and then for this, for this, for this. And if the user puts some incorrect input, then we want to use default over there. So this is the basic of switch case. Again, it is limited in the way because it can only equate. It can only check for equality. It cannot check for less than or greater than. Also, that is possible with some tweaking, with using not breaks and fall throughs and so on. But again, not recommended at all. Use if in that case. And let me remove a break from here. We'll see what happens if you don't put a break. Okay. So let me remove all breaks for that matter. So clearing the input. Now suppose my input is A. Okay. I have not put any break over here. Let us see what happens. Yeah. So basically, this is the condition known as fall through, because the code essentially, the execution falls through all these. So whenever it will see कि case A is true, case A सही हो गया, so it will just run these statements blindly within the switch case. It will not check anything else. It will not do anything. It will just run all of these statements blindly. So that is why I use a break here. Break does what is, यहाँ पे after you have executed all the statements in your correct case, break will bring the execution out of this switch. Break is used in loops and if statements as well. We will look at that later. But here break just means कि you bring out of the block, you come out of the block. So break will bring the execution out of the block. Okay. So I'll just take one more example and expect your output here. So I'm taking B as the input. So give the output for that.
Everyone write the output that they think should be expected in the chat, right? A lot of people are writing. Yeah, somebody got it right. Yeah, I think you can run it now. Yeah. Gunjan, what happened?
I'm not able to unmute.
You are unmuted.
Okay, but okay. Team shows that I'm muted.
Oh, somebody might be muting you.
That's not possible, na?
All right. Wait. Okay. Until his problem is fixed, I'll be speaking. So yeah. Basically, what happens here is, I think you can. Can you go back to that? Yeah. So what the break statement does is, when a case is executed, the break statement leads to coming out of the switch case entirely. If there is no break statement, whichever case gets accepted, every other case after that gets run. So our grade that we inputted was B, right? So it checked if the case was A, which it wasn't. Then it moved on to B, which is true. So it ran good. Now it saw that there's no break statement. So it went on to the next case, ran improvement readed, then again went on to the default case and outputted incorrect input. And that was basically how it ran. Also, a lot of people asked why, that you can do this in if else. Yes, you can do this in if else. Switch is just an alternative to if else. It's easier to read, also executes faster. But honestly, I don't think a lot of people do use switch statements in competitive programming. It's totally normal to use if else because switch cannot be used for complicated situations, right? Cool. Yeah. Go back to the slides. Present. Yeah.
I think
You
I'm
cannot
audible now.
give yeah, you're audible. Good.
Okay, chalo, ठीक है. So there are links again if you want to go ahead and look at more examples. So now we have completed the syntax part. So now this is the time to give you a brief overview of this course and CP in general. So there are some certain websites which host contests and which have some problems that you can solve. So the first thing which you need to do is learning a language, which we were doing right now. We were learning C++. Okay. So learn a language, not to the extreme. Okay. You just as much as we did, and then the next lecture most probably containing loops and arrays, that will be sufficient. You don't need to learn object-oriented programming and all just for CP. So don't worry about that. And there is a certain playlist of Bucky. I have included a link in the resources part. So what you can do is you can look at that if you want to go ahead, because we have looked at the examples in one presentation. So it has divided videos, and you can look at that if you wish. Up to 40 or something is there. There are short videos. Then the second thing which you should do after you have like just gotten hands on to a language is to HackerRank. So on HackerRank, take you to there. So in HackerRank, there is this problem solving part. So in skills available, first of all, there is C++, and then there is algorithms. Algorithms is essentially problem solving. So you can go to problem solving, go there, and then you will have these problems listed. So you can start solving them one by one. There is nothing to look at that. Start solving them one by one. Okay, you can look at the basic problems if you are having problem. I think I'll have to check this. So the basic problems are listed here. So you can go on with the easy problems first, solve them, and then move ahead. So I'm just solving one problem to show you how it's done, because we will be expecting that when we have a session next week, what you can do is you can set up C++ on your device. Also, you can solve some problems from HackerRank. So for example, this problem, solve me first. Let us change the language to C++ or C++14, anything works. Okay. So the problem, whenever we solve a CP problem, first of all, read the question carefully, read the constraints, read the sample input, output, and then move to code. So don't think you cannot even code basically without reading this all properly, and you will run into errors. So let us read the question. Complete the function solve me first to compute the sum of two integers. So we need to calculate. Should I zoom? Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah, it's visible. It's visible.
Okay. So compute the sum of two integers. So for example, the inputs are 7 and 3. I have to return 10. Simple task. Okay. So so I don't need to exactly do write the function and all. What you can do is simply get rid of all this. Okay. And what we saw right just now, we can write that code. Include. So what I have to do, I have to take two numbers and then output their sum. Okay. So this is very trivial to what we have done in today's class. Now I have two integers. I need two integers. So first of all, I will declare two integers, int a and int b. Then I will take the inputs. So C in A and B. Okay. So now I have the two inputs. So again, see, यहाँ पे 7 and 3 they were, so you cannot put A equals to 7, B equals to 3 here, because the program will check it against many cases. So you will have to use variables and take the input from the judge. Okay. Now what we have to print is sum. So int sum is equals to A plus B, simple, and then print out that sum. See out. Very simple program. Okay. So this satisfies the test cases. Now we will look at the constraints. So A and B are less than 1000, which is okay because int has a very long range. So we don't need to worry about that. And inputs 2 and 3. So we can run it. Okay. Yeah. So we can run the code. Running code will do what? It will run it against some test cases and see that your code is running fine or not. So you can see our test cases have passed, sample test cases. So 2 and 3 were the inputs. My output was 5 and the expected output was 5. So my code is good enough.
Good on 1 second. Like somebody is asking about return 0. So writing return 0 is okay. Wait, writing return 0 is not compulsory. The compiler will implicitly understand that if you have not returned anything, it is returning 0 in the main function. Also, someone has asked about the constraints, right? So why the constraints are important is is because you don't want an unexpected situation to occur while you're running your program, right? So in the what the constraints mean is, in the tests that the program will be run on by the website, what can the values of A and B range in? So if they have said that A and B will be between 1 and 1000, that means they will be only testing it between 1 and 1000, right? So the program will also work if A and B are above 1000, but they're just telling us that they're restricting the problem in this case to between 1 and 1000. All right. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we just ran the code and we got the expected outputs. So now the second step is submitting the code. So again, I'll run the code. The 2 test cases are correct and should be failure trivial. And then we submit the code. Upon submitting, here there are only 2 test cases, but when you will move to more problems, there will be 20 or 30 or even more test cases. So it will, what are test cases? Basically, you have some inputs in those test cases and there is some expected output. Your program should handle those inputs, take in those inputs, and should return an output which is corresponding to those inputs. Okay, this is basically CP. Take inputs, process it in some way so that you get the expected pattern or get the expected logic and print that sum out. So this is what we are doing here, and then I've submitted my problem is correct, so we can move on to the next challenge. So in this way, HackerRank is a very good platform for beginners, absolute beginners, because it has problems of this type to get you started. Okay, and so we have put the links in the PDF. You can go ahead and solve these problems. So let's look at other platforms for now. Matlab, I will tell you, you don't have to move to them right now. Right now, do HackerRank. If you don't have any idea about programming, so do HackerRank first. So there are the stars on HackerRank. You can see there are some stars for particular points. Not that it really matters, but just to get an idea of how much you need to solve. So in language proficiency, that is C++. In the C++ part, you can get maybe 2 or 3 stars. So you will get acquainted with the syntax of C++ and printing decimals and all those. And in problem solving, you can go up to 3-4 stars so that you have an idea of how to work with loops and arrays and more stuff like that. Okay, so you can do that. Loops and arrays will be covered in future lectures, so don't worry about it. Right now, you can practice basic problem solving. So, and then there is a website called @Coder. It hosts beginner contests, which are very good because the initial problems are very much aimed at beginners, and you can solve them. It is basically take an input, print the first 3 letters, print A plus B plus C, something like that. So it is very easy. You will also get confidence if you solve some problems in the contest. So yeah, you can go for these. Then there is CodeChef. CodeChef is popular and it has a series called Starters. So it is again aimed at beginners, so you can go for that. And Codeforces Div 3. So there are divisions in Codeforces 1, 2, and 3. 1 is the toughest, then 2, and then 3. So for 3, you can attempt ABC. I think you can attempt very easily. At times it can be tough, and at times it can be very easy. So it doesn't matter really how much you solve. You should just, even if you don't solve a problem after the contest, you can look at the editorial. The authors of the problem, they upload the solution and the approach, read the editorial, and then solve it again after the contest is over. So that is level 1. And then level 2 is Codeforces Div 2. So it is as expected tougher than Div 3, and you can move to it later on. Okay. So for now, just focus on HackerRank and get to this point, and then move to these problems, these platforms. So these are some useful resources that you might need. First of all, this is the handbook, CP handbook. So it contains snippets and very short descriptions of algorithms, and it is very practical to be said because it does not contain examples or so that many. So you can just use it as a reference. I forgot how to do this, so let me look at this. So this is basically just a handbook, not a proper theory book. Okay, and the new Boston is that Bucky I was talking about. So you can go to his channel and you can look at the C++ playlist. So you can do that. And then there's this website called c++.com. It contains very advanced descriptions of C++ syntax and functions. But obviously, I won't say you to go to the website and read all of this, because whenever you get stuck, you can always Google and see what that statement or what the data structure or that algorithm means. So do that. Geeks for Geeks is, again, it will pop up in your Google search automatically. You don't need to go here and read articles on your own. Solve problems. If you get stuck, you will look at editorial. Editorial will give you something new, like a sieve algorithm maybe. So you will see what is sieve. You will go to Google and search sieve algorithm. So Geek for Geeks will pop up and you can read about sieve and implement it. CP algorithms is again a website where all the computational programming algorithms are implemented as well. There's a code and there is theory as well. So this is a very good website for like reference. And CLRS is a book, Introduction to Algorithms by Corman. So it is a book which you will use in your second year in the CSE department. And in any case, it is a very good book for deep study of DSA. It does not focus on competitive programming. It is in general data structures and algorithms. So again, not very important right now, but yeah, if you want to go deeper into these things, you can obviously read this. And then these are some problems which so this one I solved just now, solve me first. I took a problem on conditional statements as well, so you can see that, okay. Input and output. So Siddharth, should I solve these problems right now? What is the time?
We're running a little out over time, so it's all right. I think we can give these as homework so that you guys can spend a week on it. Try to look at the Bucky's lectures and try to solve these problems. They're very, very basic problems. And we'll also create a channel other than the general channel for doubt solving. So if you guys, a lot of you guys will probably face a lot of problems. So you guys can definitely put your problems on that channel. We'll take a look and we'll try our best to solve your problems in time.
So these are a few problems you can solve on HackerRank and also more problems. And this was a problem on Codeforces. We'll okay, I'll get to the last and then come to this if you have time. Yeah, so the homework to be said, not the homework exactly. So you will need to set up C++ on your device, on your computer, because online editors are easy, but again, they are very slow. And sometimes in contests, what happens is you put your code over there and it gets public and somebody plagiarizes your code and it can be a big issue. So use C++. It is very convenient to use on our device. So these are some links I put up here and you can go to these links and see how to set up. So I saw some people have problem in setting up and getting compiler path correct or something like that. So everything is mentioned over here, and in these two videos, I have personally followed these and installed. So you can look at them and try to set up C++ either in code blocks or use VS Code and GCC compiler, MingW compiler that is. So use that compiler. It is given over here. Don't worry about what is MingW and all. It is given over here. You can set up. And then these links, try to solve some problems from problem solving and on the language part. Okay. Then we will create a doubts channel on Teams. You can put up your doubts over there and we will look at it, and also other people can solve each other's doubt if needed. Also, we will be floating a form. In that we will be asking you for your HackerRank, CodeChef, AdCoder, and Codeforces handles. So just go to these websites and create your accounts. No need to give any contest or anything right now. Okay, just create your accounts, and we might float a form so that we can, if we want to conduct some contest or something like that, we will use it to track people. Okay, so you can you can fill this form, and yeah, so also we will try to track how many people have submitted these problems. So we might create some homework problems later on, so that will help in these. So this was the entire thing. I will take one problem now, since we are already about 2 hours. So this was the entire lecture for now. I'll just solve one problem from Codeforces. Okay, and then we'll wrap up this class. So this was that problem. So so let's read through the problem once. Okay. So in general, Codeforces has this habit of giving a story at the beginning. Just read it quickly. So there's someone, Polycarp, doesn't matter. He has 3 integers, A, B, and C. He keeps this number a secret, but writes down 4 numbers on the board. So we don't know what is A, B, and C, but we have 4 other numbers. So what are those 4 numbers? They are A plus B, A plus C, B plus C, and A plus B plus C. So we have these 4 numbers. Now from these 4 numbers, what we have to do is we have to guess A, B, and C. We have to give the output as what are A, B, and C. And also the order doesn't matter here. Obviously, we cannot judge the order. So we can give out A, B, and C in any way. Okay. So this is how programming CP programs will look like. Okay. You will have certain input conditions, the output which will be required in a certain format, because it is given. Give these integers spaces separated by a space. So we'll need to give a space. You cannot just print them in different lines. So these are some things we will need to follow. Okay, so very quickly, think what we can do here. Like take 2 minutes if you need. You can look at these examples for. So these numbers are there, 3, 6, 5, and 4. They are not in any order. It has obviously not been given to you, which is a plus b, which is a plus and this a plus b plus c, and you will need to get a, b, and c from these 4 numbers. So how will you do that? A slight hint is all of these numbers are positive. So
I recommend all of you try to write it on a piece of paper, try to write the different formulas and try to understand how you can get the individual numbers out. You can output the numbers in any order as far as the question is concerned. So take a little bit of time and try to make a logic, right? Yeah. Some people are getting, some people have been able to write the answers. Yeah. I think we'll give everyone else 1 minute more so that they're able to think about it. It's all right if it doesn't strike you immediately. It's very normal. It'll take some time for you to get used to it. Now that some of you have an idea, try to write the code to implement that idea. Right. Someone's written x4 minus x1, but has it been mentioned that x4 is the largest? I don't think it has, right?
yeah, the numbers are given in any order. So
any order, yeah. Yeah.
For example, 3, 6, 5, and 4. Now, obviously, 4 is not x4 here.
So fine. Yeah. So all of you take a minute, try to write the logic and write it on a piece of paper, because that's where everyone solves the problem first. If you start writing the code immediately, things might not be very clear to you. But if you write it on a piece of paper, it will become very clear immediately. I want you guys to use only what we've been taught today. It is completely possible to only write it using if-else statements. All right, I think Liklo.
Should write the code, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
One second. Some people also had a doubt as to why he's including not including IOStream as including bits. So the thing is, IOStream is only used to get input and output, but bits is a library that includes all IOStream and every other thing that you might be needing to run the basic C++ codes, right? So it is not necessary to include anything else, most likely, if you're including bits.
The part where I take inputs, x1, x2, x3, and x4. Okay. Now we're using something called max. So it is very intuitive.
Gunjan, I think instead of writing max, can you write if x1 greater than x2 and x1 greater than x3? Just to show them. But yeah, we can show them.
जाएगा भाई. Max.
We can show them why max is also important. But yeah.
Okay, I'll write first in max and then do that.
All right.
So, max. So in case you're wondering what it's doing, so max is a function in C++. It takes 2 values and returns the maximum of them. So first it will give out the maximum of x3 and x4, then it will give out the maximum of x2 and this result, and then it will give the maximum of x1 and this result. So you can see essentially that we are getting the maximum out of all those 4 numbers from here. Okay, you can see that. So this is the easier way to calculate a max. Another way, I'm just doing it quickly enough. Just get the next 2. Just I will not write the entire thing. Just show because this will get long. So if x1 is greater than x2, x3, and x4, so it is greater than everyone. I think I should include a equal here as well. If x1 is greater than, because why I'm using equal, because the question says that all of these numbers can be equal as well. So I want to include that case as well here. Okay.
Yeah, max can only take 2 values at a time. That's why he's written a nested kind of thing.
So in this case, x1 is the maximum, so I can directly store maximum is equals to x1. So in this way, now I will write another else, and then I will check for x2 if x2 is
Just
greater than
copy
this.
paste it, yeah.
Yeah. So guys are getting it what we are trying to do here, and then else in the last part. Okay.
Now you have to subtract from the maximum.
So this is another way
Great.
of getting the same maximum. Okay. This is one liner, and this is more. Yeah. So now, so let me store my a, b, and c. I'm creating 3 variables. Okay. So if now I know ki there is a variable, some one of these x1, x2, x3, x4 is the maximum. So I don't want to print that out. Okay. So what I will do is I will what to do here. I can take 4 variables. Yeah. Taking 4 variables. So first one is maximum minus x1. One is maximum minus x2. Third one is 1 minus x3. And the fourth one is maximum minus x4. Now it is obvious that one of these will be 0. Either A, B, C, or D. Any one of these will be 0 confidently. So we will print everything except that 0, 1. So we'll just check, very simple. We'll just check if A is not sorry for the caps lock. If A is not equals to 0, then we will print A. Then we will check another for B. So I'll just copy paste it. Again for C. And we didn't need D, if you realize, but D is basically 0. Either, matlab, we don't know which one is 0. Any one of A, B, C, or D is 0. So just we don't need to print that 0. So I'm doing this, and this can be handled much more easily with arrays, which we will be seeing in the next class. So yeah, and then we are doing this, and so now I've written some code, and I'm confident that it works. So I should check the test cases. So let me take any test case. I'm copying this test case from here. Okay, and standard input. Okay, so entering the input over here, and let's see if it gives me the correct output or I have some bug. So the output is 100, 101, which is 100, 100. So it works because we need them in any order. So it does not matter in which order we print them. It's just the order should be correct. The number should be correct. So does this make sense? Any doubts in this? I will submit it just to get the correctness. So whenever you solve a problem, then you have a submit button over here in Codeforces. Codeforces is slightly less user friendly, but yeah, you will get a hang of it in time. So I'm just copy pasting my code over here, selecting the compiler. Compiler GNU G++ is used for C++. Okay, this is the compiler, you will know it, and then submit it. So when you submit it, it will run on certain test cases. Okay, and then it will show you accepted. So accepted means that all the test cases that it had, your code was correct and your problem is completed, solved now. Okay. In some cases, there may be errors, like you can see in my previous submissions, there was a runtime error, there was a wrong answer on a certain case. So you can always go to your submission and look at what mistakes you did or where was a mistake. So you can look at that and debug. This is not possible in a live contest, but when you're solving problems, you can do this. So this was just to get you familiar with Codeforces, for example, or any other platform except HackerRank, because generally this is the way we solve problems. We want to copy and paste and so on. So yeah, any doubts regarding this last one, we'll take it. So that if there are any doubts, I'll explain directly as well.
I'm trying to answer. Someone's asked if they want more problems. So what we recommend is, as beginners, the best platform for you is HackerRank. HackerRank has a lot of variety of easy problems. The problem with Codeforces and CodeChef is they do have easy problems, but they are very less in number and they are a little more advanced than HackerRank, which is somewhat designed for beginners. So we recommend you guys start off with HackerRank, get to around 4 stars, and then you move on to other platforms. As for placements and internships, I don't think you guys should be really worried about placements and internship at this point, because the main focus should be to learn. Because if you are a beginner, your aim should not be to get a good placement. Your aim should be to get really good in terms of being able to solve, being able to think of a logic and being able to implement it. Like that's the two main parts of competitive programming, right? So instead of thinking in terms of internships, right now you guys should be trying to solve more problems and understand more things. As for the duration of this course, we have currently thought of having 4 lectures, but if we feel like it, we can extend it. And we are going to be covering a lot of more things so that you guys are totally self-reliant after that point. As for the stars on HackerRank, you guys can take a look at the interface of HackerRank and it'll be pretty obvious. So in the last code, can you go back to the code, Gunjan?
I hope I didn't.
Yeah, it's got it. Wait, is it gone?
Okay, I'll open Codeforces.
Wait, you've submitted, na? You've submitted. All right. So if someone is saying I've already started CP with Python, what you'll understand as you learn more languages is that languages don't really matter a lot. As in, you can implement any logic in any language. The reason we recommend C++ is because first off, it has the standard template library. You don't have to worry because there's a lot. Like for example, you saw the max function, right? It solved a major problem for us because it was already a predefined function. We don't have to sit and write the entire if else. We can just use a max. So stuff like that you will already find in C++. Also, C++ is much faster than Python. Now that might be all right in some programming questions, but that becomes a major problem because some questions then you might find it hard to solve in Python even with the same logic, because Python is essentially a much slower language. So we recommend you start programming in C++. Programming in Python is fine. There's a lot of different applications for it, but with respect to competitive programming, we recommend you guys get started with C++.
Yeah, for a not equals to 0. What you can see here is we calculated a maximum. Okay, so maximum is any one of these numbers. I don't know which one it is, but a sum number is the maximum, which is the sum of all 3. So what I will do is from so I will check which number was the maximum. So if I got the number maximum, then what I did was I subtracted each one from the maximum. So if I subtract a plus b from a plus b plus c, what will I get? I will get c in return. So that is what I was checking. But now if I subtract a plus b plus c from a plus b plus c, then that will be 0. So any 4 of these numbers is a 0. Only one of them is a 0. And I don't want to print that out. Okay. So I've checked if a not equals to 0, then print it out. If b not equals to 0, then print it out. And if any one of them is 0, then that will not get printed. So I will have only 3 statements which are printed, even though here it looks like there are 4 things getting printed. But I know that every time one condition will surely be true, surely be false, and any one will be 0. You can write this on a piece of paper and maybe you will get a better idea. Because seeing the code for first time may be intimidating. Yeah.
All right, you guys, if there's any more questions, put it on the chat and we'll be answering those questions.
Yeah, and empty quotation marks are basically a space. I have put a space over here. So the question required me to print the variables after a space. So oftentimes we will have to take care of what the required output is. Okay, so we will need to give the output in that format. So I'm printing a number and then giving a space after that number.
Also, like currently we've not taught you a lot. There's a lot more that you've got to learn that we will be covering in the next few lectures, because with this knowledge, you'll be only able to solve very basic problems. Yeah, you can leave if you do not have any more questions. We'll be covering some much more powerful stuff in the next lectures, and you'll be able to understand all the questions that you can solve. So yeah, we will take a lecture when all of you have no class or any event of some sort. So the question we wanted to ask you guys is next Saturday working? Somebody said that they have a class from 2 to 3, I think. But what about the others?
And whenever we'll have a class, we'll make sure to post the links and the notice everywhere on Instagram and on mails beforehand.
Yeah, one important question. Yeah. Why haven't you used brackets in the if statements, right? So the if statements by default expect that the next line is part of the if statement. So if you don't use brackets, it'll immediately take the next line. If you can go back to the code, Gunjan.
Yeah, that was bad coding on my part. But
yeah. Gunjan should have written brackets. So the if statement understood that since there's no brackets, the next line that comes immediately is part of the if statement. Ideally, you should have brackets there.
Yeah, definitely. Otherwise, it becomes a headache to debug. Okay, then should we wrap up? Stop the recording.
Yeah.